Good evening. It's about 7:06 on Monday, March 1st, 2021. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Village of Ossining Historic Preservation Commission. This is Adam Markovics, the chair speaking. And could the others introduce themselves for the record?
Joyce Cole.
Catherine Wilson.
Corporation Counsel Stuart Kahan.
Jaime Martinez, Planning Director.
Okay, we have before us this evening an application for a revision to a certificate of appropriateness that was granted over the summer in 2020. The property in question is 163 Main Street. Is a representative for the applicant here with us?
Yes,
Yeah.
Gary Gianfrancesco from Arconics Architecture PC. I'm present.
Good evening, Mr.
Gianfrancesco.
Gianfrancesco. So, Mr. Gianfrancesco, can you fill us in on the substance of this
Sure.
revised application?
So at the earlier meeting, which we had which revolved around this matter, I had basically agreed to, there was towards the end of the discussion, it was suggested that perhaps that the fascia on the left side could perhaps return similar to what was done on the right side, which is the older building. And in our haste, I agreed to do that. It was our intent to do it if it was at all possible. But on reflection, went back up on the roof, and as you can see, that the top of that fascia is a solid stamped metal material, so it's unalterable. What we were trying to do, the picture that you're looking at now, was, I believe, what the intent was, to wrap it around the corner, but in which case it would need to die into the wall as it does in the picture that you're looking at. On the other side, however, if you were to make the corner, that end of the cornice would be out beyond the left side of the building, returning into nothing. So we looked long and hard at how we could possibly alter it, and the only way would be for all of this cornice material to come down, and we could then perhaps pull something off with a different cornice material, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, it would still be a set of circumstances unlike any of the other cornices in the building. So I thought we started to head down a slippery slope, whereby even if we could pull this off, it wouldn't really reflect anything else that's aesthetically visible on the face of this building.
Okay. So I think it'll be easier for me to understand what you're proposing if we go back to the photos.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right.
So that's the desired condition, I think, that we were hoping to emulate.
Right.
And then if you go to the attachment number 1, there you go.
Okay. So so this is a I don't know, Jaime, do you have control of these images?
I do, yeah. So,
Okay, could you scroll down just a little bit? Okay. So, Mr. Gianfrancesco, what are you proposing should be done to the image we're looking at now. I don't see any marking. Maybe it's 4 of 5 in this PDF.
So in the photo that we're viewing now on the screen, we would be fixing and or replacing the rot that you can see that's below the cornice and into the siding. We would be replacing the corner molding, both the face, which is in line with the clapboard siding, and then the return piece that's on the stucco side of the building. So in essence, our repair of that cornice, which when you look at the earlier pictures I had sent, there were 2 seams in that. If you look at the flat view of the top of this, and that's really where the repair is being done. It's the caulk joint has failed, and that's why the clapboard siding and the wood on the front of the building has deteriorated, because where the caulking has failed on the flat, on the top of this, the water is just dripping through and running down the face of the building. So the repair that we were hoping to accomplish was to stop the ongoing damage by the leaking water. And initially it was not intended that we would aesthetically change things. However, on further examination, there really is no way to alter that view except to remove it all and replace it with something different.
Okay, so that's what I want to get some more information about removing it all. What specifically are you referring to?
So all of that that fascia material there, where you see the corbel and you see the little dentals, that's all one piece. That's all one piece of pressed metal. So once you start to touch it, you would have to basically remove it. There is no way to alter it except to replace it in a different fashion.
Okay. Jaime, could you scroll down, or maybe it's up? I want to get a complete view of the area in question. Okay, actually that tiny photograph at the top, this is looking at PDF page 1.
Mhm.
So we're looking at a view of the entire cornice. So are you proposing that the entire cornice needs to be removed?
No, we're trying to avoid that. Again, we're trying to basically address the repair. If you look at that cornice at the top, you'll see 2 dark horizontal lines.
Okay.
Okay, that's where the cornice is failing, the caulk joint above it, and that the water, and you can see the damage in the facade. If you follow down those 2 joints, you can see where it has caused the actual wood to rot out.
Okay. So in the image I'm looking at now, what are you proposing removing?
We would remove, so if you look at the corbel all the way to the left, the bottom of that corbel, there's a horizontal piece, and then there's a flat fascia piece. We would probably be removing all of that, as well as the siding, which is rotted.
Okay. And how surgical is this? Is it just the section that's directly underneath the corbel, or is it straight across the entire length of the building?
I'm not sure I'm understanding your question. We would be looking to replace all of the clapboard siding from the bottom of those window sills up.
Okay, so the clapboard siding
Yes,
and the second, it looks like the second story here. That's all being replaced, and I think that's pursuant to the certificate of appropriateness that was previously issued, right?
yes.
Okay. You were just talking about removing something besides the clapboard siding.
That that
under-
horizontal piece just above the siding, the first piece of blue wood that's flat,
Okay,
that's got an advanced state of rot in it.
okay. And you would need to remove the entire length of it across the entire building facade?
That flat piece, yes. Yes.
Okay.
So,
And that's the only piece that would be removed?
correct. The repair of the cornice, go back up to the topmost part of the drawing, is the picture rather, is basically there. We would cover up those caulk joints with an aluminum cap, basically write a continuous piece of aluminum capping. So that would effectively repair the leaks that are coming through that cornice and down the face of the facade.
Okay.
So it's the repair is rather inconsequential as far as the expense associated with it, and we're not touching that cornice except to cap it.
Okay. Jaime, once more back to that thumbnail image. Okay. So the way I'll describe it is directly above the yellow clapboard siding is a horizontal flat piece of, we can call it fascia board, with there's a small elevated section of trim, and that entire piece lengthwise covering the facade of the building will be removed and replaced in kind with a new identical piece of fascia board. Is that what you're
Correct.
proposing?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. What material will you be using for the replacement fascia board?
In a perfect world, if we can find the correct piece of AZAC, something that is going to last the distance, that would be our best guess. If the profile of that piece requires us to do it out of wood, we would do it out of wood.
Okay. And that's it.
That's effectively it. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, it's 7:20, and regrettably, we don't have a quorum this evening. But I for one think it's a very logical replacement, and it won't have any ill effects on the appearance of the building. So I would defer to Corporation Counsel on how to proceed.
I think it's a minimal change. You can probably do it, in fact, without having to redo the COA. So if you folks are okay with it, I would just make it clear to the other members that that's what it is. Because again, I'd rather not force the applicant to essentially wait 4 more weeks. I think it's essentially a minor change.
Yeah, I agree with that. Joyce, Catherine, do you have a different point of view?
No, I understand it clearly. It doesn't sound like much of a change from the last time.
Yeah, I agree. Fine.
What we can do, Adam, is just essentially prepare either a letter or an addendum to the COA based upon tonight's discussion, and that allowing the applicant to proceed based upon that discussion. I think that's perfectly fine.
That sounds good to me, Stuart.
Good.
Mr. DeFrancesco, thank you very much for taking the time to appear before us tonight and presenting this revised application. I think the building will look great, and I appreciate all your thoughtful work on this project.
Thank you very much. We've tried our best to put our best foot forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, good night, guys.
Thank you.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Too.
Okay. There are two other items on the agenda tonight. I must confess I have not made headway with either of those agenda items, and I was thinking that Phil and Steve aren't here, but I would love to recruit a volunteer to tag team with me on these two items. Joyce, I'm not going to include you because you have been doing such incredible work all this month, and I'm sure it's continuing into the next. I had an opportunity, was it only yesterday? No, Saturday?
Adam, let me just interrupt. Jaime, it looks like Stephen is in the participant queue, so can we bring him over? There he is.
Good evening, Steve.
Hello, Stephen.
I unmuted myself. I apologize. I had problems getting in through the village email, and I spent too much time fooling around with that rather than just getting on here. I shot you an email as well. So here I am.
Thank you, Steve. Not to worry. I was just complimenting Joyce Cole on really the amazing work that she has been doing right out of the gate. I mean, it's not even, what, 3 months, 2 months that you've been village historian. And it really just incredible work, particularly with regard to Black History Month. I sat in on and really an amazing program that Joyce orchestrated through the library over the weekend on the sort of the Black experience in Ossining over the decades. I think a recording was made and I think will be available online if it isn't already.
Yeah.
It was just terrific. So Joyce, keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Steve and Catherine and everybody else, I hope you'll have an opportunity to check out Joyce's work at Bethany. I have not yet been there, but I will make every effort to be there this Wednesday if I can. Again, congrats.
Thank you so much.
Steve and Catherine, would either of you be interested in tag teaming with me on sort of further work on the two items on this evening's agenda, one of which is working with the First Baptist Church on doing what we can to help them preserve their steeple and, for that matter, the rest of the building, and the other being further work on historic markers in the village. Do either of those things speak to you particularly, and you might want to tag team with me on?
Sure. I can do the First Baptist Church if you would like.
Okay. So I will be in touch with you, Steve. You said you've had problems with village email or just logging on to tonight's meeting?
Just logging on. I think it was getting into the email and then getting the link through there. So I think I need a contact. I had a problem the last month too. I know Jamie sent out. Oh, sorry. I know who I need to contact to get this sorted out.
I don't recall the name of Ossining's tech person.
Greg Cooper.
Greg Cooper, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And I've got his email and phone number. So
So Steve,
I'll try that tomorrow.
look out for an email from me in the coming days or weeks about further work on the First Baptist Church matter.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure which direction this is going to go in. Where we left things is helping my contact at the church get started on an application with, I believe, the New York Landmarks Conservancy on a technical assistance grant. So I'll be in touch with you to do some more work on that. And Catherine, I mean, you can tag team on that too. It doesn't need to be
Whatever
just
you
Steve.
need, whatever you need, I'm happy to help.
Okay.
Adam,
Yeah,
I will-
maybe what I'll do, almost like the more the merrier. I might just email you both about both projects, which I see as sort of ongoing things that I'd like kept on HPC's radar. Oh, there's Phil.
Adam, I would like to help with the historic markers. I
You
am doing
sure,
a lot-
Joyce? You've been doing so much work. You sure?
I like work.
Okay.
My husband's going to throw a book at me in a minute, but I still want to help.
All right. How about this, Joyce? I will include you on future email correspondence about historic markers.
Okay.
All right.
Yes, thank you.
Good evening, Phil.
Hi.
We had an applicant before us tonight, and Steve, this is for your benefit too. It was real quick. It was a very minor revision to a certificate of appropriateness for 163 Main Street. That's the Open Door building. It's a very slight modification to the COA, and I think we all agreed that the next step should just be the issuance of a revised COA. And as for the other two items on the agenda, I haven't made much of any headway with either of them. So I was proposing tag teaming with some folks on these various matters. It's just two matters: the First Baptist Church and trying to help the church in whatever way we can to restore the steeple and to preserve the other elements of the building, and further expansion of historic markers in the village. I think what I'll do is, as soon as I wrap my head around next steps on both of these things, I'm going to email the group, and whoever has an interest in taking the ball and running with it with me, we'll proceed accordingly. So with that, I have nothing further to address tonight. Again, really great work Joyce Cole has been doing, and so important. And we're lucky to have Joyce in the village. We're doing this work. And Joyce, to the extent that there are opportunities for some kind of collaboration between the work you're doing and HPC, don't hesitate, to let us know what we can do to support your work and collaborate with you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Does anybody have anything else on their mind with regard to historic preservation?
Yeah.
I have a question about the historic markers.
Please.
Would they be able to be put in front of buildings that were not necessarily landmarked just to demark their significance?
Yes.
Okay. That might be a tad of a workaround on the warden's house. And it's also worth doing on some properties like the Mundet Mansion and that sort of thing, where it's more of like a recognition rather than the perception of, oh, you're going to hang this albatross of obligations around us. And might even be, sorry, that's Frida. She's curious. She is contributing, by the way. She's not a non-contributing. She's a. It might even be a good PR sort of a thing to folks who think we're the heavies coming in to impose our rules on them.
Definitely worth further discussion. And I think the some members of the public had proposed some historic markers that I don't think would elicit any strong opposition, although I've been wrong about that before.
They're all over Woodstock. Stop.
The Benjamin Franklin mile marker in Nelson Park, and a historic marker with respect to Sojourner Truth in Ossining, a house she may have worked at, and possibly something at Camp Woods relating to Sojourner Truth. But yeah, I haven't forgotten about the warden's house, and I think that may be something worth revisiting.
Well, I'm still healing. I'm still waiting for the soreness to go away.
Anything else?
I have a question. I don't know if this is something that we even weigh in on, but the development down at, or proposed development down at the foot of the kill there, next to the parking lot. Do we weigh in on that at all in terms of how it might fit in or disturb or not disturb the historic ambiance of the town? Or is that something that's, because it's totally modern, new development, is beyond our purview?
So I have not done any digging into this other than having a quick glance at the sketch. And no, I think there is a place for the HPC to offer some thoughts about the design and scale.
When the matter ultimately comes before the planning board, you absolutely can. It's not there yet. Got a way to go.
That's good intel. Thank you, Stuart. Yeah, I didn't know how close we are to moving forward with this project.
We got to get a brownfield declaration first so we can get it cleaned.
Okay.
So there's no shovel about to go into the ground, and it will require planning board approval for the site plan and all the work that's planned there to connect up to the kill and the walkway. So there's a
At
lot
the
to do.
environmental review phase, there is a question that has to be investigated about historic structures. And so there is an old building. It's one of the oldest buildings in Ossining, around the corner on Main Street. So if anything, there might be some notification to the board to weigh in at that point in the environmental review. But
Okay, yeah.
there is not I mean, I think everybody is aware, there's not a preponderance of historical artifacts. There are some questions that were raised at the last meeting about archaeological details that might be in the kill itself, like, components of a old mill, and requests to have, investigations done to see if there's any other, archaeological, features on the site. So that'll probably take place if it moves forward.
I'll just state that, yes, Steve, I think it's a project that's going to sort of inhabit a space that has a definite character, although the character's been disturbed by some recent developments in the area. And there are historic buildings in the vicinity, not just on Main Street, but in the adjoining streets. So yeah, I think it is something of interest, certainly to the HPC. One can only hope that the village does as good a job as it did with the library in, designing and executing a structure that fits in. So I look forward to that and hearing more. Anything
At the
else?
tail end, when I came on, you were discussing the renovations to Open Door. You mentioned there was not enough for a quorum to approve something. Do we have that number now rather than hold things up? Or, you know, I don't know.
I think, Stephen, the way we're proceeding is issuing a revised COA based on the minor scale of the change involved. It's just a piece of fascia board that's going to be replaced in kind.
Right, I caught that piece. Okay.
Anything else? Okay. Well, seeing as we've gotten historic preservation matters off our chest for this evening, I would make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting. Anyone care to second that?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
I
All right, folks.
Okay. Good night, everybody. Nice seeing you all. Stay safe.